Okay, I think we are getting folks joining now. We'll just go ahead and get started. My name is Arindata. For those of you who haven't yet met me, I'm working. Today we have an exciting training, and it builds on work that ADB has done in digital health implement perhaps a year ago. So today we're focusing on a subdomain within that on digital financial services for health, which often gets linked with health financing, but also increasingly within the help with uh, and many other users that we will get into today. So we have trainers from Access Health International who have been working within Asia and have done some them full time to go through their slides and to perhaps altern the cover page. Cheryl, our Access, if you have control, can you put the slides up?
Yes,
please?
happy to do so. I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, can you see this okay?
Yes, thank you, Adrian. So I'll go ahead and introduce you and Dr. Pankaj. So we have two trainers with us today. We had for Q&A. So I am going to turn it over to you, Adrian. Thank you, and apologies again for the issues with the joining passcode. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As you mentioned, this is an area that we've been working on for quite some time. It's one of our favorite topics, so very happy to be able to present and do this training with ADB today. So my name is Adrian Mendenhall. Okay, first we're going to start with some of the introduction and the learning objectives today, and then we'll be going through on the larger ecosystem through which they're built. And then third, how do you launch a digital financial services for healthcare project? So really going into the practicalities of designing, implementing, launching, and scaling these models and along with success stories for inspiration as you're thinking about what kind of digital financial services for health projects you may be implementing in the markets where you're working. Followed by Q&A, which I hope for the question and answer session, we're able to have a really dynamic discussion as well about what is possible with digital financial services in healthcare. So as Aaron mentioned, Dr. Pankaj Gupta is joining us today from India, where he has a lot of experience working with national insurance. I am the Global Business Development Lead for Access Health in Southeast Asia. So our objectives are threefold today. One is, and we're going to be addressing all of these objectives throughout the training today. And so at each point, we'll be addressing all of these. So we're going to be looking at what is the larger regulatory environment that both protects patients and enables innovation in the area of digital financial services for health. And then we want to understand, how do we think about building a digital financial services product? So understanding the key implementation concerns, approaches to doing this, in order to meet specific health systems challenges. And third, how do we monitor and evaluate the impact of digital financial services for health on health systems, including around financial protection and health systems performance? So what we often say is that every patient journey is accompanied by a financial journey. So we speak pretty often about in the healthcare area. We talk about the patient journey, but we rarely talk about the health financing journey and from prevention all the way through to rehabilitation and palliative care. There are multiple pain points along this journey that usually are associated with a type of transaction, whether that is a payment or that is a data transaction as well. And so while this list is not by any means exhaustive, we want to be able to highlight that throughout a patient's lifetime, there are going to be many points when they're seeking care where that health financing journey is going to be important. Why are we focused on digital financial services for health? As most of us know, that healthcare costs are one of the most significant reasons that put people into poverty. So almost since 925 million people every year that are, actually, I think, sorry, I'm tripping over my words here, that this is a significant contributor to poverty, whether that is an unexpected healthcare event or loss of income associated with healthcare as well. And so the approaches that we look at for digital financial services in healthcare take the approaches and the tools that are developed within financial inclusion and apply them to the goals of universal health coverage. Universal health coverage is a sustainable development goal, and which is defined as ensuring that all people have access to high quality, affordable health or high quality health services without undue financial hardship. And financial inclusion works towards eradicating poverty by opening up financial services for unbanked and underbanked populations. Usually, this is the same target population. The population that struggles to have the full suite of financial services, that the same population is applying of universal and affordability for high quality care. What are digital financial services for health? There are many ways to map out all of the different models and applications of digital financial services in the healthcare system. But at its most basic level, it is the integration of cashless payments and data to build innovative financing models. So cashless payments can include more legacy systems, such as a bank transfer or card services, but increasingly it includes online banking, mobile networks, and the benefit of these is that they provide a transparent financial record, and they also act as a platform through which, and of course, data, as we know, the world is moving in leaps and bounds in how we capture data, how we store it, how we process it with tools such as artificial intelligence and big data, and how we distribute that data as well. So looking at advancements in data technologies, plus the cashless payments, allows us to build models such as InsurTech, which InsurTech, the term encapsulates almost every technology that's being used in the insurance industry. But more simply put, it's any product that is allowing us to apply for, purchase, and use insurance products. And it brings with it a lot of automation and can increase financial protection. Health savings are digital health savings accounts or health wallets that allow patients to store value within that wallet and put aside money for future healthcare expenses. This protects the money and ensures that that money is available for their healthcare. But what's quite interesting as well is we've seen that these models, once they're in use, they allow for aggregated payments from multiple payers. So you can have donor insurance, co-pays by the patient. All of these funds are going into one wallet that is then being able to be used for one expenditure. It's also a nice way for when family or friends are sending money home from abroad, they can direct that specifically for healthcare expenses by making remittances directly into a wallet. And then digital lending. Digital lending has been oftentimes combined with alternative risk scoring. So for unbanked patients or patients without a credit history, or for these smaller clinics and pharmacies that similarly don't have a credit history, they can use these models where alternative risk scoring may involve other data from a patient's smartphone. It might use that digital financial record for a clinic and pharmacy to see what the average monthly revenue is, or use psychometric tests, such as the case with Arogia Finance, where they use a psychometric test to see what is the risk of someone defaulting on a loan. And because of this, they've been able to offer very low interest rate loans, which we see as more ethically conducted than maybe some of the other loan companies that you see out there right now, or even informal means of lending as well. So the digital lending allows people to apply for and receive that funding through digital channels, but also combines it with data so that so they can access credit in the first place. And then direct benefits transfers are oftentimes payments that are made directly from a government or a donor directly to beneficiaries. So we've seen this during COVID-19, where governments had to quickly figure out within a few weeks in 2020 how they were going to get money directly into the bank accounts of citizens and also for businesses as well. So as governments were rolling out these benefit systems, they needed a way to do so. And governments who had this in place had digital direct benefits transfer in place were much better placed to ensure that that money was dispersed quickly and people could avail of the funds right away. We've also seen digital vouchers or e-vouchers being issued specifically for healthcare, such as the case of e-rupee in India. And this allows you to send a digital voucher that can be used for something like a vaccine or prenatal appointments. You can direct it for the use case that you've developed it for, and that voucher can only be used in that place. And one of the benefits is that it drastically cuts down on the administrative costs and also reduces fraud in this use. And then we've mostly focused on examples on the patient-facing side. But also when we look at payers and providers, they are similarly, if not even more so, likely to benefit from digital financial services. So providers who adopt cashless payments, they can reduce the administrative costs that are associated with moving cash. I had spoken with an NGO a few years ago that was going to be paying all of its frontline health workers and its vendors using cashless payments. And they said, you know, they didn't think that but what they said was that it was just too expensive to move cash. And for that reason, payments. I think now we've seen much wider adoption of this for paying wages, for paying vendors, because then people get paid quicker. And then also for providers who are accepting patient fees via digital channels, it allows that transparent digital record, and also allows for claims reconciliation with payers as well. And then also just in the business management side, being able to use e-invoicing, e-billing is going to drastically reduce the administrative costs. And then we can also look at use cases in supply chain management. Again, B, C, D, and E. As these products are being moved, we know that money is changing hands. So we want to be able to provide a transparent, shareable record of all transactions so that we can reduce leakage in the supply chain and increase cost efficiency, which then frees up funding for what it's truly intended for, which is patient care. And then probably the largest and most significant application of digital financial services in health is the use of DFS in national insurance programs. So as we look at achieving those universal health coverage goals, if we can integrate health and financing data in some of these processes, everything from enrolling patients, determining eligibility for different financial programs, being able to bundle health data with finance data, then it serves citizens, but also gives health systems planners better visibility on the provision of care and allows them to plan health systems much better as well. And actually, I want to make a quick point on that. Is billing data alone, being able to see the billing data in community-based care really allows health systems to capture very important data on what people are seeking healthcare for, who is seeking it, why are they seeking it, and how much are they spending. And we know that when people are seeking care in small clinics, we are oftentimes lacking that data on primary care. So this becomes an important tool for data capture. And I just want to bring up the example of Singapore, which we'll be discussing. I'm not going to go too in depth right now because we're going to be discussing it later, but they were able to successfully integrate this health and financial data and give patients access to that data. And then the fourth box, as you'll see, is a big question mark. And that question mark is, we're still early on in developing digital financial service models in healthcare. This is a very new area. It's a new application of the technology in health systems. So it's an exciting time because healthcare systems, governments, payers, providers, and consumer-facing startups as well are doing a lot of very interesting, exciting work in this area to look at how we can be innovative in our approach to financing so that we can better serve patients. What are the benefits? We've seen through digital financial services for health models, we've seen increased use of healthcare services. Patients who have more financial protection and greater options in how they pay for care are more likely to seek that care, and especially to seek higher quality care. We're seeing greater insurance coverage, being able to reduce even patients' costs in completing forms and getting cash to pay for care as well. They're able to avoid that. And it also allows greater engagement with the healthcare system. Providers are able to save money. They're able to invest that saved money into improving the quality of services. So whether that is hiring more people or buying more or purchasing diagnostic equipment, they're able to invest in the care that they provide, and that while also capturing better quality data and also increasing revenue from that rising healthcare demand. And then payers, of course, are going to be saving drastically on administrative costs, going to have better visibility on the care that people are seeking, detect fraud when it happens and prevent leakage within the system, and have access to better data for health systems planning. I think I took a bit of time to go through that, so I'm going to go through this a little bit more quickly, is when we look at what is the digital financial services for health ecosystem, we always put the patient at the center. So even if we're talking about a supply chain management model, or we're talking about better claims reconciliation between providers and payers, everything that we do is still with the intent to improve patient care and reduce their vulnerability to those healthcare expenses. Okay, sorry. So digital financial services is going to give that patient more choices in how they pay for care. They're thus empowered. They're able to use the tools such as health savings accounts or e-vouchers, or pay their doctor directly, purchase medicines through an online platform, and have greater ease with which they access healthcare. On the second layer, service providers and agents. Now, this is quite broadly defined, but digital service providers are such as the e-commerce, the insurtech companies, mobile health. We do want to include them because it can be included within the financial services models. And the others that you see here as well, including enterprise management for payers and providers, are able to provide easy to use, seamless, and transparent payment services, but also the exchange of data between patients, providers, payers, suppliers, and government. And last, but certainly not least, is the digital infrastructure and the regulations that sit behind all digital financial services for health models. So in order for these models to be created and for them to scale and to have that adoption and that buy-in from, especially from patients, you need very strong personal data protection laws and cybersecurity laws. We need to see central bank policies that enable innovation along with national digital strategies and the digitization of the national insurance program, existing banking services for the previously unbanked population, such as agent banking, but also greater access to connectivity through the telecommunications companies, investments from venture capital firms, and of course, government IDs as well, to ensure that the services are going to the people who it's intended for. So when the data and the payments move through the digital financial services ecosystem securely, efficiently, transparently, and with patient data protected, the national funding for health can focus on what is most important, which is patient care. So again, DFS for health are built upon advancements in cashless payments, data storage and processing, and can be used as a tool to advance universal health coverage and connect payers, patients, and providers in a seamless, transparent, and efficient way. Now getting into the heart of this, and I just realized we're 20 minutes into this. So the very first aspect of this, of building a DFS for health solution, is to identify and describe the problem statement, identify potential solutions, onboard potential partners, design and launch and scale a model, and of course, monitor the performance and evaluate impact. So how do we define the problem that we're addressing? What is the health financing challenge? And for a lot of times, or as we know, health systems have many financing challenges that we can focus on. So how do we choose which one? First, we start with the national insurance strategies. And not only the UHC policies or national insurance programs that are in place today, but where are national insurance programs heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And sitting down with those policy planners, looking at the documents that are already available and seeing what some of the largest gaps or challenges are going to be in implementing that strategy. Second, meeting with as many health service providers, policy planners, financing experts. And through these meetings, and this is what we've experienced as well, is that common themes emerge from these meetings. And through these meetings, you can identify what are some of those common themes, specifically around gaps or challenges, and then be able to prioritize those as well. And then we want to start to be able to answer the questions of, when we look at those themes, who are we really solving for? And who else in the ecosystem is going to be affected by the problem? Who are the other stakeholders involved? And which health services are we specifically talking about? Is it primary care as a whole, or are we looking at maternal and child health? And then within those health services, what are some of the information bottlenecks, and where is the system being dragged down, so to speak, by very paper-heavy processes? And when we're defining the problem statement, how much detail should we include? In short, as much as possible. And what this means is, of course, we want to consult the literature and whether that's academic literature and gray literature, any policy documents that exist. But what we found as well is it's very important to invest the resources in surveys, focus groups, interviews of users, and all stakeholders involved. So for example, one project that we're working on in Bangladesh is addressing, the majority of women are not getting all 4 antenatal care visits as recommended by WHO. And this is due to the cost, or they may think, childbirth is natural. I went to the first visit. They said everything was fine. I don't see the benefit of going back again before the baby is born. And there's also transactional costs associated with going to the doctor, of making sure someone else can maybe watch other children. What are transportation costs? Being away from home all day. And so in addition to the direct costs of paying for care, there are a number of other considerations that women are making, or that their families are making, when they access care or not. So we were able to conduct a very in-depth survey that involved interviews, and found out that a lot of families were saving for care. And we wanted to know, because one thing that we want to be able to launch is a health savings product. So we found out that families were saving for care. We were able to find out how they were saving, and how much they were willing to spend on healthcare. And that's one thing that's often overlooked as well, and that the literature just doesn't give us, is we might know a person's income. We might be able to estimate their ability to pay for a service, a healthcare service, but the literature often won't tell us how much people are willing to pay on that care. So really being able to invest into that qualitative research is important in fully defining the problem statement. When we look at potential solutions, I'm sure when you're looking at the problem statements, certain solutions will come to mind, but it's important to first consider the full range of potential solutions that are based on the problem statement, and then evaluate, does that solution fit into the larger ecosystem? What is the regulatory environment? For example, in Vietnam, we wanted to be able to launch a point of care loan. And we found out that adoption of digital payments was very low by the small primary care clinics in the target area that we were looking at, and that also the regulatory environment was very difficult for the types of loans that we were looking at. So it's important to consider that regulatory environment, the national insurance strategies, and that overall health systems picture early on, but then also looking at, what is the adoption of digital financial services in that market, or in that specific geographical area, not just by patients, but by payers and providers as well. And then assessing the feasibility based on current use of technology, potential partnerships that are available. So if there is a partner with a solution that can be easily integrated, also considering what is the business model and incentives so that all partners find value in moving forward with this model. And then of course, also ensuring regulatory compliance and assessing the digital literacy of users of the model. So some of the regulations that we want to consider is the financial regulations. Of course, we're seeing some countries moving towards online banking standards, and also what are the insurance regulations for healthcare? What is the healthcare system, and what are the different regulations around the use of data? Digital regulations on whether it is ICT connectivity or architecture, and then also data governance. This is very, very important. And for a lot of these solutions, they have to trust that data governance is in place. And one model where we saw rapid regulatory advancements was, of course, during COVID-19, where telehealth regulations changed, not only in China, as this example shows, but in many countries around the world as well, in order to provide the care to patients quickly when they needed it. So the third step in creating a DFS for Health project is to identify and onboard your potential partners. And so to do this, when you have your solution and you've looked at the solution that you want to build, look at what are those product and service gaps. You might have to bring in a digital financial services company, okay, I'm going to pause for a second. So if we're looking at a solution specifically reaching out to patients, we are going to need to work with healthcare service organizations. Again, that is going to be related to the services that this model is targeting. Looking at who do we bring in for payments and financial services. So for the target population, which payments and financial services are they already using? Is it mobile financial services companies such as bKash in Bangladesh, or is this a banked population? Are they using agent banking? Or are they still using credit cards? Working with some of the social sector organizations, this is very important to be able to increase buy-in and also develop nuances within the model, and of course regulators as well. We've been very fortunate that in Bangladesh we can work with A2I, which is essentially the digital innovation arm of the government, and is able to interact with the ministries as well and look at if any regulations need to be tweaked for these models. And then on the supply side, so for working with providers and payers, of course, we still want to work with healthcare services and the payments and financial services. But we also want to be able to bring in enterprise management platforms. So these are the tools such as e-invoicing, e-billing, more of the supply chain management tools that are going to be able to reduce costs for providers and payers, and bring in those cost efficiencies into the system, and along with logistical networks as well. When we're working with partners, it is never as straightforward as we assume that it's going to be. So we've seen this as well with some of our projects where we have everyone on board, everyone is committed to the value of the project, and they're excited to see it go forward. But then we realize that maybe the health services organization has one IT person. So their ability to rapidly integrate a new solution is quite difficult, or maybe there's limited time that they have in staff time to work on this model as well. We want to make sure that each partner is incentivized. So at the end of the day, how feasible is the business model for them, and what do they get for this? So we know that, it would be great if we can all be altruistic in rolling out these models, but each partner has to have a business interest. Maybe it's increased revenue for the health services organization, the same with the payments company. They're seeing more transactions come through their platform, and that's why they would like to invest in this. But to see these move forward, those incentives have to be in line. This third point is a very important one. Communicate in terms that the other partners understand. This was a barrier that took us at least a few months to overcome when we were creating these projects, in the sense that we are a public health organization. We usually speak in terms of healthcare, health access, universal health coverage. And even when we talk about health financing, we thought we were talking in terms that would be commonly understood. And then we realized between the financial sector and the health sector, it's like two different languages. There's different terminology. There's different business processes. And so in order for us to fully get that buy-in from different partners, we had to learn the language of that sector and be able to communicate in that way so that they found value in the project. And then being able to align these priorities or incentives in very clear terms, whether those are MOUs and partnership agreements and contracts, before beginning to work together. Now, when it comes to the actual heart of the project, the very first advice: start simple. We want to envision what that final product is going to look like, but the first piece of advice that I've heard from very successful digital financial services for health projects has been start with your low-hanging fruit. Whether this means that there's a simple technology integration, or you're asking the patient to do something simple, you're asking for a simple change in process, start with that simplest ask before building out the full product. And you want to be able to monitor that user behavior engagement with just your simple product before you add any additional features. Then you're going to add the features one by one and be able to monitor the use, look at any barriers to adoption or any barriers to awareness as well. And then once you're confident that the solution really works, then you can look at scaling and growing the solution. And that includes either just with the partners you're currently working with, or bringing in other partners such as distribution partners who can help you bring the product to a larger population and to the larger user base that they may already have. So getting with starting simple, we're testing assumptions. We want to create very easy onboarding processes. I've seen models before that are beautifully designed, but if the onboarding process is difficult, then it's done. People are going to forget to use it and they're not going to try again. And also they should receive immediate benefits. It's hard for someone with a health savings account or they're purchasing insurance and asking them to invest money in something that will happen in the future. But if telehealth is bundled with it, or they get a health screening or some type of immediate benefit, then they're more likely to continue to put money into that solution. We want to compare the initiation versus the ongoing use. So is the initial adoption high, but then they stop using it after 1 month, 3 months? And then you can test the incentives accordingly. Add your services and capabilities and processes with each feature. And again, even when you're bringing in the distribution partners, you also have to build the internal team capabilities at the same time so they're able to deal with that larger volume of data and transactions. And this is the point where it's good to start investing in the marketing and the awareness. So what are some of the technology considerations in developing a DFS for health project? One is identity management. This is actually the area when I talk to people in the digital financial services space where they say this is the first thing that they mention, saying, you know, we need more digital ID. This is the future for healthcare. Is being able to use digital ID to ensure that fraud is not being committed, to make sure that people are eligible for the right services. And in order to do this, you need to be able to integrate those national IDs with payment IDs and health systems IDs, ensure that the consent management processes are in place, and also ensure that data would be anonymized before analyzed. Then also ensuring interoperability. So in an ideal world, these systems would be interoperable at all levels. But first we're going to look at the most important layer is the semantic level. Sorry, are the technology systems speaking the same language? Then going down to format that people are using. So at a health services organization, are they using Mac? Are they using a PC? Are people using Android phones, iOS, et cetera? And then looking at the connectivity, what types of networks, the ICT networks are the users on? And you want to be able to ensure that those networks can talk to each other. And then lastly is at the facilities level, or the organizational level of who has access to the data that's coming through. And then we, of course, want to use scalable technologies. So mobile first. And so whether that is patient, provider, payer, we want to make sure that, that it's used for mobile technologies, building on the cloud when possible, so that you can lower the cost of ownership, but also be able to scale in a cost-efficient way. And then being able to use automation at the point of care and point of sales to reduce the data processing costs. Sorry, I just opened the Q&A really quick. How do we monitor performance and evaluate impact? There's a lot of words on these slides. You don't have to read them all right away. But first we want to see, what is that user experience and perception? Are they aware of the solution? Is it easy to use? Do they find it valuable? What do they find it valuable? If they stop using the product, where does that drop off occur? So we can look at adoption data, different activity data, such as how frequently are they logging in? What are the transaction volumes? What are the forms that they're completing? And do this continuous data monitoring. But we can complement this with user interviews and different product tests to continuously improve and iterate the product. And this should start immediately from when the product is launched, and then it should be monitored regularly. Oops. Second, how is this benefiting populations? So is the digital financial services for health model increasing uptake of health services? Do people have greater financial protection through savings and insurance? Are clinics and pharmacies investing in their own capacity to provide care? And how are health systems able to save money and administrative costs? Are they working better because of the adoption of this service, of the digital financial services? So we can look at that consumption data. We can look at insurance enrollment. What is the time spent by staff towards different administrative processes now? Are we able to detect more incidences of fraud? And we should be conducting these reviews on a regular basis so that we can track growth in the outcome measurements and also identify barriers to success early on. And this is one aspect, is you're going to, as you see, there's different kinds of data that we're looking at. We're looking at the healthcare data. We're looking at finance data. If we're asking about human resources time costs for providers, we need to be able to access that data as well. So you want to ensure that the appropriate data sharing is part of those early partnership agreements. And so for that reason, also, you want to be able to set these monitoring indicators and procedures early on before launching the model. And then last is impact. So after this model has been in place for probably at least 1.5 to 2 years, if not longer, is how is this improving healthcare outcomes? Are we seeing reductions in poverty through greater financial protection for the users? And so through health data, being able to look at the percentage of people who have catastrophic healthcare expenditures, or are they able to spend on non-health related costs during a health event because they're able to smooth these transactions. These types of evaluations are best done by a third party in order to truly demonstrate that impact at the population level. So the key takeaways for building a DFS for health solution is having a very well-defined problem statement, identify solutions based on the feasibility and impact, partner so that you can create a holistic solution, start simple, plan for scalability, and of course, monitor frequently to ensure that the product is user-centered and evaluate for impact. Some of the pitfalls that may be addressed. Okay, I just noticed we have 12 minutes left for this, so I'm going to run through these very quickly. Some of the systemic challenges is, of course, connectivity challenges, or if it's difficult to exchange data because of issues of interoperability, and of course, limited budgets or policies to support transformation. On the user side, this could also include low financial awareness, low digital literacy, or there might just be resistance from the program managers as well, and also lack of adequate documentation and unreliable payment challenges. Success stories. Health Hub. This was a model launched by the Singapore government so that people would have better access to their health information. And it allows people, and I'm going to move through these a little bit quickly. So it was launched in 2013 to be this one-stop shop for the national healthcare system, but it really did start with the health data. And so in order to really, understand what users wanted, they conducted focus groups with a variety of populations to look at how people wanted to be able to use the portal and what was most important for them. One of the goals is to be able to make healthy behavior very attractive. So this is through Health Hub. They offer different health and wellness programs through which people can accumulate health points. But since the adoption of Health Hub, it has grown considerably to also include being able to access health records, including lab results, and also to be able to make payments, look at eligibility for national insurance, and also submit claims as well. So this has really been made possible because of the integration across many different data systems. And now every Singaporean is using Health Hub to access their COVID-19 test results and their vaccination records on the app. Bima is a insurtech company that was launched in 2010 in Ghana and has since expanded to 9 markets. It's based in Sweden, but primarily in Africa and Asia. And so it offers a bundled insurance and telemedicine, but more recently has launched a health wallet as well. So as they combine the microinsurance and the telehealth services, they've been able to establish partnerships that allow for very easy, the product allows very easy registration and payments by integrating mobile financial services and other payment channels and allowing paperless claims process. We know that users are more likely to engage with insurance and sign up for insurance if that claims process is quicker. They are testing many different tools for continued patient engagement, including benefits that arrive right away upon sign up, having consistent education with the users and ensuring that they're being rewarded for not only healthy behaviors, but starting to save for their healthcare as well. So some of the challenges is digital literacy, access to the mobile data, ensuring that connectivity is needed at the point that they want people to start to engage with the app. So these are issues that are being worked out in each market. And now they have over 25 million consumers worldwide. I apologize that took a little bit longer than I had planned, but we want to open it up for any questions that you have. I can either answer them, but Dr. Gupta is able to as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adrian. We do have one question from my colleague Anand. He asks whether you can provide any examples that bridge digital issues across, I think, looking at the full unserviced population that has limited digital literacy and potentially can benefit from digital health solutions. Perhaps, Anand, if you have anything additional to add, just put it in the chat box. But Adrian, do you have a response?
That's what I'm thinking of for a second. I think some of the initial ones were based on, I think it's really where you're able to combine the agent banking. So if a patient or if a citizen, I guess, is the digital literacy may be low and the comfort with using digital technologies, or they might just not have the appropriate technologies, is being able to use that agent banking has been helpful as well. And there's even new models looking at how agent banking can be combined with community health worker services so that you're able to deliver health while also delivering health financing.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, usually number literacy is there. And if you can, enhance the solution by using user experience, icons, images, then people are able to use it at, the point of care or the point of sale or, wherever they have to use it. So it's all about user experience and number literacy.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? You can just go ahead and unmute and ask. I see I have colleagues here from finance and health and across our regional departments. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. If I may just add, I'm Anand. I'm a consultant with the Asian Development Bank, working mostly on the social protection side. And And my question is again, and just to elaborate on what you went to before, and to give some context on where I'm coming from, trying to understand more also in terms of the interoperability between systems, because as you mentioned, the target groups which probably we're intending to serve with digital health solutions are also overlapping with a lot of other potential vulnerabilities like poverty, welfare targets, etc. So you're seeing in terms of that interlinkages between health systems and social welfare systems, for example, is there digital solutions that are helping facilitate that? What are the prospects that you see from your experience in your projects in facilitating that interoperability?
Sure, I can take that question about interoperability. So there are actually three very important things to consider in interoperability. One is identifiers. So the financial identifiers, the digital identifiers, which could be at national level or local level. And the third is health identifiers. So all the three need to match. And there needs to be a mechanism by which you can sort of make sure that the person who is getting the benefit is really the person who is identified by a digital identifier. So that's one. The second thing is semantic interoperability in terms of the meaning. So if somebody is getting the benefit or being given the financial benefit for a particular purpose, then it should be really for that purpose. So, there are financial code sets, there are healthcare code sets, which need to be sort of brought into the semantic interoperability between different systems. So you can be sort of sending something in Russian and the receiving system doesn't understand Russian, so it'll become difficult. Or if the code sets are different, it becomes, the syntax. So the formats that you're sending it in. So standard transaction formats are usually available on the financial side, and they are increasingly becoming available in mature markets for the healthcare side. So you need to sort of combine these two in terms of the standard transaction formats. So the sending system and the receiving system needs to have the standard transaction format so that it becomes machine readable, and humans are not really required to read it and do the transactions. So these are the three most important things. Of course, there are others in terms of data privacy and security and all that, but then,
Many thanks. Any last questions?
Well, I just also have a question for participants back again, is as we are going through this, are there initial ideas that you're thinking of as well, or projects that you would prioritize around digital financial services for health?
I think my colleagues are considering quite a few of such interventions, but I wonder if we have enough time to take them up. I think that's a really good question, Adrian. The good thing is that we do have some technical assistance planned in this space through our department, as well as I think our regional departments. And it looks like this is going to be an exciting field for us, looking at the post-pandemic landscape and also where ADB is heading overall. So I wanted to thank you and Dr. Pankaj. Both of you took a lot of time preparing this training, and I think we'll have a lot more engagement. I know it's been a busy day for ADB folks. There are a lot of competing meetings right now, but this training will be available, a recording will be on our health sector SharePoint page, and I think in the future we can also anticipate doing a training like this for our DMCs, our developing member countries, opening it up for a lot more folks. So I think this was a really good trial run and getting a lot of concepts clear as well. So thank you so much to everyone who was able to join on such a busy day, and we look forward to engaging on this topic in the future. Thanks so much.